I just changed the topic because it was more fitting in here when we were discussing with about the deep vein thrombosis and especially the acute pulmonary embolism, especially the submassive ones. And as Dr. Bedi rightly pointed, what if we have a contraindication to thrombolysis, and what if we have a patient in cardiogenic shock with massive pulmonary embolism? So this, I'll just start with a patient we had. This was about more than a year and a half back. A 36-year-old male met with an accident and had multiple head injuries and intracranial hemorrhage. And on the second day, patient developed massive bilateral pulmonary embolism and had a severe shock. His BP was 80/40, heart rate was 140, and a saturation of 70%. And because of hemorrhage, anticoagulation or thrombolytic therapy was contraindicated, and patient was too high risk to be taken up for surgery. So in that sort of a desperate situation, we were thinking what to do, and when we got the referral, we thought, let's just try and take out the clot if it works. So what we did, we had a old DCA catheter, a guiding catheter, so we had an access through the right femoral vein. We used a 10 or 11 French sheath, and we took a 10 French guiding catheter and used it directly to aspirate thrombus from the main pulmonary artery. We went segment by segment, whatever we could take out, we took out, and the residual thrombus was macerated with the 035 Terumo guide wire. Surprisingly, it worked very well on this patient, and then we were encouraged to use more and more of this technique in our patients where there was a severe massive pulmonary embolism and contraindication to thrombolytic therapy. In my previous institution, we had the angiojet available to us. In this institution, we do not have it, and this is how we just started doing a thrombosection, and we found it's very useful. So this is that patient. We just went with a guide wire. We went to the right left lower pulmonary vein. We could take, this is after we have sucked out the thrombus from the main pulmonary artery. This is from the left lower pulmonary artery. We can see residual thrombus, but at least the flow is established. Then we segmentally go up to the left upper lobe pulmonary artery, and then this is the result which we get. We can take out a lot of the thrombus from here, and then we go to the lingular lobe pulmonary artery, and we can again take out about 30-40% of the thrombus from here. Then we go on the right side, we do the same procedure. We sort of take out the thrombus, we macerate the residual clot, and then go segment by segment, and we found that the perfusion is good. And then on the right side, the upper lobe pulmonary artery, and this is how we keep doing this procedure. And then this was followed by a placement of a IVC filter so that we do not have more of pulmonary embolism. This patient obviously could not be thrombolized, so we left it at this stage. Now, based on this, we were quite encouraged, and we started getting more referrals, not only from our hospitals, but from other hospitals who encountered this sort of patients. And this is our data for last 1 year. We treated 26 patients with a procedural success in all of them, a technical success in all of them. One patient died because of cerebral hemorrhage, but not because of pulmonary embolism. What we achieve is a significant drop of pulmonary artery pressure in most of our patients, and also a significant drop of clot burden. The procedural time is about 26 minutes. There is usually a fall of hemoglobin, so now preemptively we transfuse blood while we do this, and saturation improves in most of our patients. As an extension, this is what we do for massive pulmonary embolism and contraindication to thrombolytic therapy. But in other patients also who do not have a massive pulmonary embolism, we try to suck out the clot and then leave in a catheter there with a lysed tissue plasminogen activator to take care of the residual clot. So this improves the patient's condition very fast. To the best of our knowledge, this was probably the first case about 1.5 years back treated by this technique, and now we have a series of 26 patients. This is supposed to be, in our practice, quite safe, effective, and cheap technique, and if learned properly, can be used in many, many cath labs in different locations. Thank you very much.
Yes. This is an interesting technique, and some of our colleagues, they've used the catheter-based techniques largely in scenarios where they've had patients. I remember there was a case presented at the Cardiological Society of India meeting about 2 years back, wherein a patient had walked into a doctor's chamber and he collapsed as he was going out. And he was found to be having massive pulmonary embolism. And so the doctor did what you did. So this is a technique. As you said, the major indication would be wherever thrombolysis is contraindicated.
And it's a massive PE with shock.
Yeah, or you don't have an option, you don't have a choice. The patient won't give you that much time.
Correct.
So those are the two major indications. But yes, this is.
Now, what I would like to congratulate Dr. Khanna for, many of us have had kind of this experience, either friends have done it or myself have done it, but this is a very consolidated reported format, 26 cases serially recorded, everything done, proving its worth. This is, commendable.
Sure.
Thank you.
One comment, Dr. Sandeep, can I just make any comment? Dr. Khanna, Dr. Lochan here. I have done a couple of cases like that, but it's erratic. But your data is very, very solid, and in good number of cases you have done and good result. What I wanted to say that just a guideline us, that give us a guideline with us experience. When you say acute massive pulmonary embolism, whether you criteria decide by the RV pressure on echo or just a clinical presentation, which patient you will take for the cath aspiration, or patient those who have collapsed and then you will take it. What's the, just a clinical guideline from that?
Massive pulmonary embolism by definition has to be associated with shock. It has to be major main pulmonary artery and major branch pulmonary arteries filled with clot with a shock and RV failure. Now these patients can also be treated with lysis and many other techniques, breaking the clot with a wire and then lysis subsequently intrapulmonary artery lysis through a catheter. But these are the patients where the lysis is contraindicated. So we take patients who have shock, who have massive pulmonary embolism, who have RV failure and have no option for a thrombolytic therapy or are too sick for surgical therapy, embolectomy.
And as such, what was the duration of the onset of symptoms to the time patient reached to your lab?
Usually these patients would come to us within hours. It's not more than that.
No,
that's why it's very easy to aspirate.
Symptom onset. Is there any historical record you must have maintained that?
Symptoms like the first one, usually these patients are in shock and they have, many of them are having a roadside traffic accidents. Following that they have massive pulmonary embolism. Some of them have, many of them would also have malignancy suddenly desaturating and getting into shock. So these are the two major symptoms which sort of lead us to this diagnosis.
Okay, we're done with the time for the discussion on this paper. We'd like to thank our chairpersons and Professor Khanna.